Welcome to the Spotlight Series. I'm Scott and Ernie. We are live from the Cowesett Inn on Tuesday night. We have a fantastic menu here. If you can't stop in, order online. There's a lot of services that we'll pick up for you, deliver it right to your house. We have the pleasure today of Joanne Ryan, Councilwoman from Ward 5 of Providence, with us. Welcome to the Spotlight Series.
Thank you very much, Scott. Pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little background about yourself, outside of being a council person.
I'm a wife. I'm a mom. My husband and I have two beautiful children, adult children. I live on Pleasant Valley Parkway. I grew up in the neighborhoods that I represent. I'm thrilled to be able to represent those neighborhoods. I'm also a businesswoman. I have an undergraduate degree in business and a MBA with a concentration in finance. I've worked in the banking industry right here in Rhode Island all of my professional career.
So tell us about being a council person.
I enjoy being a council person. I find it more rewarding than I ever thought I would. Public service is something that you have to love doing, and I enjoy serving my community. And again, it's the neighborhoods that I grew up in. I have a wonderful opportunity to represent them at City Hall.
And your background in education and finance, I'm sure, helps you on the council?
Absolutely. I think my experience has served me very well. My education has served me very well. Since elected, I've been on the Finance Committee. I've served as the Vice Chair for 5 years. And this year, when Johnny Gliozzi was selected by his peers, by us, to be the council president, I became the finance chair. I enjoy being on the finance committee, and I feel as though I'm very effective.
Good. And talk to us a little bit about the last 2 years' results that you've brought back for the city, specifically your neighborhood, who will be watching this and thinking about voting for you.
Bringing back to my neighborhood are the things that are important to the entire city of Providence, and that's public safety. Folks are very concerned. They don't feel safe in their homes. We've had some issues the last few years with increase in crime, violent crime, which is very disheartening and disturbing. On the council, I've fought for return to community policing, and as the chair of finance, I have funded, as vice chair, I also funded an increase in our police ranks, as well as giving the police the support and the tools they need, whether it be training or increased funding for diversion programs and programs for our youth to keep them in positive programs instead of not having any programming for them and leaving them on the streets. Community policing has been a priority. Return to community policing is a priority. Also, I've focused on quality of life in my neighborhood. I'm very proud to have fought for to rebuild Conley Stadium. It's now heralded as the best multi-sport track facility in the region, as well as pouring funds into our community library. Both Conley Stadium and the community library played critical roles in safe places for our community during COVID. So I'm very proud of that.
And when we talk about the crime in the city, I mean, Brett Smiley was on recently, a candidate to lead Providence, and I asked him, is Providence a safe city? And it wasn't a trick question, it's a tough question. Do you think it's more a case of people coming from outside the city, or people inside the city could send them to better things to do, or is it just a case of opportunity for some?
I think that people don't feel safe. If you look at the statistics, our crime statistics are actually down, but violent crimes are up, and that's when people are afraid. We have far too many guns on our streets, and that is, I think, at the root of the issue. That's the systemic problem in our city. We do have people coming in. It's not uncommon that you hear of outside, folks from outside of Providence coming into the city in the evenings and causing trouble. But you also equally hear, disturbing stories of crime, from folks that live in our neighborhoods, and that's disturbing. We need to rebuild our police ranks. We need to return to community policing, which we have not been able to because, quite frankly, we haven't had the ranks. And that's a problem. And the council has been steadfast, and I have been probably the loudest voice calling for a return in earnest to community policing. It's the only way that our neighbors are going to feel safe. As well as you had mentioned programming for our youth. That's an element of it. There's no one solution. It's a combination of things that we need to, focus on in earnest to return the sense of safety to our communities.
No, I think that's smart. I really do. I think approaching it from multi-directions caters to a lot of different peoples and classes, and I think
Absolutely.
you've got a good win there.
Absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about, besides community policing, kind of what your goals are for the upcoming session if you're reelected.
If I'm reelected, I will also focus. One of the biggest challenges for the City of Providence is our finances. I think I'm uniquely positioned. I understand deeply the issues with our city budget. I'm well equipped to address some of those issues. I look forward to having a mayor elected who is equally equipped to deal with our financial challenges. I don't think people realize the depth of the financial challenges that we have. When I was elected 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, the city was having trouble making payroll, just making payroll. And many of my community members recognize that we used to get the bills earlier and earlier in the year just because they needed the tax revenue. We were able to fight our way out of that situation with sound investment policy, tightening our belt, not borrowing. There was a time when the mayor wanted to borrow $45 million, and I basically said no. I stood up and said we can't afford it. If we borrow, we run the risk of turning our bond rating, lowering our bond rating. We didn't borrow. We tightened our belt. We refinanced many of our bonds. As a result, we increased our bond rating. We were able to borrow at a more favorable rate, but also then restructured our borrowing and our spending, and we were able to dig ourselves out of that. Unfortunately, we were hit with the pandemic. That has put additional stress on our finances, but our short-term finances are in great shape, and our bond rating is in great shape, largely because of being financially prudent over these past 8 years, and I think that I played a very large voice and a large role in that. Now we need to focus and face our unfunded pension obligation, which is truly a bear.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure.
$515 million. Only about, my statistics showed about 4% of Providence people voted in that referendum. So what do you think the issue is with people not coming out to the polls, not having a voice in it, that over 95% of the people just didn't care enough to have a talk about $500 million?
I wish that we didn't rush that. I wish that we put it on the ballot with other, there's an election this year, a few months. I don't think I think we knew enough a few months ago when we rushed, or the mayor rushed to put it on the ballot. I think it could have waited. But, that being said, I do think it's an important tool for us. And it's a tool that we will not be able to utilize unless our interest rates and the finances are such that we can employ it. It's got to still go through, it has to go through a council vetting. I hope to be part of that vetting process, and I certainly will not do anything that would compromise the fiscal stability of the city.
I think it's important that the group, when they put that out to vote, it did put some strings on it. It said it has to be X and Y, and if we can't meet those criteria, we're not just going to borrow $500 million and only get $300 million worth of value from it with extremely high interest rates or a payback period. So I commend you on it. We'll see how it goes forward.
Well, actually, when it was vetted in the Finance Committee, one of the things, the recommendations from my Finance Committee was indeed to put those guardrails on it.
Sure.
And I am happy. I supported it only because I knew that the guardrails were on it. Up at the State House, they honored those guardrails, and they also added a cap on the rate. We had actuarial analysis done when those actuarial analysis were completed. The highest rate that was put on the bond was expressed in the legislation. So, it's important that we basically evaluated the worst case scenario.
Exactly.
And we did that. So it's an important tool, and it's yet to be determined how it will be utilized. We have a 5-year time frame to utilize it. And I think that when it comes to finances, all tools need to be on the table. And that is just one.
Sure. And let's talk a little bit about a hot topic that's been a couple of years now, is the Providence schools. So I know the school committee folks and the state work hand in hand to try to bring that group and the whole system back to the level they want it at. The council, I think, from my research, is kind of sitting on the side a little bit, but also a very interested party at that table, because it is the funds that you're putting in your budget to try to run those going forward. So where do we sit on that? Are you comfortable with how far we've gotten and where you feel that we are?
Not at all. The state takeover, in my mind, has failed. And I think that there are those that say it was burdened, it was hampered by the COVID. The timing was such that they weren't able to accomplish what was intended. But whatever the reasons, it's unconscionable that we've got a generation of students that are suffering from a poor quality education in Providence, and that is untenable to me. The state takeover has clearly failed. The city needs to hold the state accountable for the takeover plan. I think that's at the root of the issue. Hold them accountable and work diligently now, not when the school is turned back to Providence. We need to be working now to make sure that we're building a governance model that supports our teachers, supports the school system, and gets the funding that we need for our kids, so that we can deliver a good outcome for our students. That's our charge, that's our obligation, and the council, I believe, is going to be very focused on doing just that. We need to engage the community, but we need to support our teachers locally.
I think it's important to consider the pandemic, as horrible as it was a reset button for a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Some great things came out of it. Some homeschooling, as we talked to schools, police and fire had to act completely differently. But at the same time as that reset button, as we go back into the real world now, there's some things that we have gaps, and there's some things that have improved. So I think you're taking a lot of opportunity to try to take some of the best, but also look forward to tomorrow with the schools, especially, that where do we want to be? We can't just say, here's the keys, we did what we could, you guys figure it out.
Absolutely.
So
we've been very fortunate as a council body. We have made provisions for fixing the buildings, the facilities, as best we can. We've time and time again bonded, went out to bond to improve our facilities. That the state has been instrumental in helping us do that as well. We need to make sure that our school facility, it is a comprehensive problem. We need to make sure that the facilities themselves are able to provide, a current education system. The technology needs to be upgraded. So, there's a lot to do. But quite frankly, before COVID, we didn't have a lot of the funds that we do now. So the COVID funds, the relief dollars, have given us a golden opportunity to focus on those funds on improving our schools, and we're going to do that.
And I know some people are looking at you and seeing what you bring to the table. You've had some nice endorsements, so if you want to talk to that a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely honored and thrilled to have the 1033 Laborers Union, and basically all of the unions have supported me. I'm a daughter of a union household. My dad was a Providence police officer, very proud of his service, and he actually was a charter member of the police union. So I'm intimately familiar with the challenges of policing, but I'm very proud of my union endorsements. I think that I have worked diligently to help working families. Those are the folks that are pushing the train, and I think I look at all of the problems we have through the lens of a family trying to, put food on the table, educate their kids, give them the best education that you possibly can, and, leave the job having, whether it be a parent or an elected official, having made things a little easier and a little better for all. Government touches every family.
I love that. So how do people get involved? There's still time to get involved with your campaign, be it knocking on some doors, walking with you, a shout out to their friends and family on social network that's in your district. How do they do that?
Well, I'm saying to people, the election, we say every election season that this is the most important election, but I truly believe for Providence this is the most important election we've ever had. We need to elect a mayor who's capable and competent on day one to handle and to deal with the challenges that we have before us, and they are great. We're losing a number of very seasoned council people, so we're going to have a lot of young council people that need to learn as they go. It's not something that you just start on day one and have the capacity to deal with some of the challenges. So this election is extremely important, and I'm asking if people want to get involved. I would love to have their help. They can go to my website, Councilwoman Joanne Ryan, and you'll find volunteer forms, and as well as if you'd just like to find out a little bit more about me. But again, it has been an honor of a lifetime to serve the neighborhoods that I grew up in, and I hope that I'm re-elected again so I can continue my service. I love Providence. I've been focused on the neighborhoods of Ward 5, but I think all of the legislation that I have put forth serves the entire city, and I think being fiscally prudent is my strongest tool.
Great. Joanne, I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I'm not a Providence resident, so I can't vote for you, but I know a lot of the folks out there have seen this, and they have a better impression of who you are and what you're about and how you can make Providence a great city again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you
appreciate
for inviting me on.